This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Please seek a medical professional or healthcare provider if you're seeking any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to Funny Medicine. I'm Evie.
I'm Julie.
And this is our podcast.
Today we're talking about mental health. Why? Because it's May, and I just learned that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I had no idea.
There's a lot of mental health awareness days and months and stuff. I'm just happy we're making it awareness. Yeah. We're awarenessing about it.
Awarenessing about it. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about it, like kind of a summary about mental health, mental illness, things that you could do to make it better, signs that you got to take care of it, things like that, of that nature. So it'll be a little bit more of a lighthearted conversation.
We've gone into anxiety before. We've gone into a lot of really mental health things.
Yeah.
However, today we're going to kind of just take it back. We're really trying to just simplify it just a little bit more and just kind of bring it back to the basics.
Exactly. All right. What's mental health?
Okay. So mental health is kind of like the brain behind everything that you do and everything that surrounds it. Your feelings, emotions, everything. Mental health isn't just about if you're feeling happy or avoiding crying in the Target parking lot or something like that.
I feel that's very
specific. Or for me, like outside of work. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, yeah.
It's a critical part of your overall health, and it's just as essential as your heart, your lungs, and pretty much any other organ when we're talking about something acting up. And before, mental health was really not discussed. It's like a very taboo subject. It still is very much taboo, or maybe it just carries a lot of shame or something.
But we're getting better.
But it's come a long way.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that we're talking about it. According to the WHO, the World Health Organization, mental health is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes their own potential, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to their community. That's like a really great, all-encompassing definition of mental health.
That's exactly it. It just covers it all.
Because if you cannot do some of those things, then you should look into why, right? Which is the whole entire reason why we're doing this, okay? Translation. Mental health is what pretty much allows you to function, okay? So it helps you handle the blind sides that you get from life, the curveballs, maintain relationships, keep a job without spiraling every time you get something from HR, an email from HR or something, which I do. Sometimes I get an email from my HR lady, I'm like, what does she want? I'm like, and I know that I'm not in trouble, right? But it's like, what does she want? It's like, and why is there so vague? Hey, can we set up an appointment to talk? And I'm like, well, what is it about? They're like, don't worry. And I'm just like, no, now I am worried.
Yeah.
So, or, pretty much just find the joy and contentment in everyday life. Okay?
Exactly. Okay. So, as always,
a brief history,
because, I just think that there's interesting things about it.
About history. We should always know a little bit of history about something.
Right? Yeah, and it's weird that you guys don't cover at least a little something, of it. But I mean, you guys just don't have the freaking time. Anyway, So a brief history of mental health, aka we've come a long way. We just said. So let's take a stroll. A little bit chaotic though about mental health, and I mean, if you've seen, I think it was last year's Halloween month, October or whatever. We kind of try to dedicate it to the spookier side of medicine and whatnot, and we've covered things like lobotomies and whatnot. So things were really great in the mental health world back then. Kind of horrifying and all those things, but anyway, so humans have come a long way from it. We've tried to understand mental health often with confidence, but rarely with accuracy. Back then. So in the ancient times, right, to go really back one, you're sad, must be a demon. That's how they treated it, unfortunately. Sounds pretty crazy, but it's true. In ancient Mesopotamia and Egypt. Here we go.
She can pronounce Mesopotamia, okay, but she cannot pronounce adolescent. Which, have you seen the Netflix show? I heard it's super good.
I've heard it's really good, but I haven't seen it yet.
Me neither, but I'll let you.
Okay. Anyway, mental illness was believed to be caused by evil spirits or supernatural sources too, whatever. The treatments, exorcisms, prayers, and rituals. Because nothing says mental health or wellness like yelling at a possessed person. Sounds like the right way to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so moving a little further, fast forward to the Greeks. They did it a little better, but still, we're talking about way back then. Hippocrates, yes, the do no harm guy, the Hippocratic oaths and whatnot, suggested that mental illness came from an imbalance in the bodily fluids called the four humors: blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm. I mean, we still use phlegm, but it's definitely not one of the humors. No. Depression? Maybe you just had too much black bile. Solution? Bloodletting. And special diets. We also covered bloodletting in one of our...
He wasn't totally wrong on the imbalance of something, but instead of neurotransmitters, it was like all these like things, which is probably the only thing that they knew back then.
Yeah, I mean, how...
About medicine.
Exactly. Anyway, so this was totally normal back then, right? Fun fact, the word hysteria comes from Greek hysteria or hystera, meaning uterus. Hence why they always used to call us hysterical and whatever when we had our periods back then. They literally believed women's wombs were wandering inside our bodies and causing emotional distress.
Thank goodness. Yeah, just like, God, I read about this and I'm just like, my goodness. People, can you imagine? I would love to have a moment with Hippocrates, like now current day modern medicine. I would just look at me like, what are you talking about?
Woman,
yeah, come on.
Your womb.
Yeah, can't control that thing.
It's going crazy internally right now.
Exactly.
Calm it down.
Yeah.
Anyway,
give me your arm. Let me bloodlet someone. Like I don't know.
Yeah, literally, that's how they dealt with it. Anyway, going forward, Middle Ages, bring out the leeches and the torches. Yes. So we also talked about that. Remember yeah. Anyway, so medieval Europe, mental illness was linked to sin, demonic possession, or witchcraft. Okay, we're in that era. Compassion wasn't really trending. So treatments, in quotations, included beatings, isolation, or burning people at the frickin' stake. Super. Yeah, that's going to really, really do something good. So some communities did use monasteries as safe havens for those suffering. But for the most part, if you were mentally ill in the 1300s, good luck. Going further, 1600s to the 1800s, asylums and quote-unquote madness management, okay? So by the 17th and 18th century, mental illness started to be seen as a medical issue, but the treatment still lacked a lot of humanity. Asylums were built, but conditions were horrific. Overcrowded, unsanitary, and violent. Yeah. Patients were often shackled, starved, or even just put in display like if they were zoo animals. The famous Bethlehem Royal Hospital in London, aka Bedlam, was notorious that the word Bedlam literally became synonymous for chaos. In the 1800s, early 1900s, the dawn of reform, and of course some quackery.
Yeah.
Because, enter reformers like Philippe.
Yeah.
Pinel? I would say Pinel, right?
I guess.
Yeah. In France. And Dorothea Dix. D-I-X, okay.
Dorothea.
Yeah.
It's like the English Dorothy.
Yeah, exactly. In the U.S., who advocated for more humane treatment of people with mental illnesses. So the idea of quote-unquote moral treatment was introduced, giving patients fresh air, structure, and just kindness. Okay.
It's like crazy.
I know.
The stark difference from burning at the stake to why don't you go out for a walk and get some fresh air?
Some air. Yeah.
Feel some grass on your toes.
Exactly. Or let's just bloodlet you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so unfortunately, science still wasn't quite there. Lobotomies, insulin shock therapy, and electroconvulsive therapy, which we did a whole episode on, became go-to methods in the early 20th century. Some helped, but as we've known, some definitely did not. Then go forward to the 1950s to the 1980s, the age of medication and deinstitutionalization.
Deinstitutionalization. Yes, he did it. Yes.
Yeah, I think it. I know.
You did it, Jules. You did it.
I freaking did it. Anyway, so that means like removement of all these institutions that we were talking about, and where they would just lock away people pretty much. So
awful.
Horrific. So in the 1950s, we got the first antipsychotic drug, Thorazine. Thorazine.
Yeah. Thorazine.
There we go. Which helped reduce severe symptoms in schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Medications like antidepressants and mood stabilizers.
You were doing so well.
I was doing well. Anyway. And mood stabilizers followed, and many long-term patients were discouraged from institutions. The era also saw the rise of community mental health centers, a noble idea that was underfunded and underprepared, leading to many individuals falling through the cracks,
And still till this day,
oh yeah,
many individuals fall through the cracks.
and it's still underfunded.
Yeah.
Like mental health as a whole is still underfunded. So now the modern era, 1900s to today, we are finally starting to get it. Slowly, but we're getting there. Mental health is now recognized as an essential part of overall health by most major health organizations. The DSM, which is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, has evolved significantly, moving away from like those vague terms and moralistic labels to more evidence-based diagnostic criteria. Treatments are more holistic: therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, peer support, and more, just using combination. And that being said, the stigma still exists, as she had just mentioned earlier in the episode. Access is uneven, and mental health care continues to be underprioritized in many parts of the world, unfortunately. Today, mental health is real health. We've gone from blaming demons to blaming hormones to finally blaming real science. Mental health is now studied with brain imaging, genetics, and clinical trials. It's being taken seriously in school, workplaces, and even politics. So yes, we've come a long way from wandering rooms, like where is it today?
Yeah, exactly.
And ice baths for mania and whatnot, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Compassion, access, and actual support. That's hopefully, possibly the next era, hopefully with one and fewer padded rooms and more PTO policies, better PTO policies, because my God, work,
PTO,
maternity leave, all those things that should be really, really highlighted. But anyway.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the prevalence of it. So if you think that mental illness is rare, surprise, it's actually alarmingly common, okay? But obviously, because there was a lot of stigma to it before and now there's not, the prevalence is increasing because more people are being made aware of it. More people are kind of coming out of those shadows, not being afraid to admit it, right? Yeah. It's kind of like running into someone at Target when you look awful, right? That's a really terrible feeling.
The amount of times that has happened to me. Like the times that I look like a vagrant. Okay. I bump into everybody.
Yeah, I know.
The times that I actually look like a functioning human being, no one.
Yeah.
Every time.
So let's do a little bit of numbers, talk a little bit about numbers. So 1 in 5 adults in the US experiences mental illness each year. Okay. That's about 60 million people. So if you are struggling, you are in massive company. Okay.
Yep.
1 in 6 kids and teens between the ages of 6 and 17 has a mental health disorder. I see it every day. This is pretty much accurate. Okay. Yeah. Anxiety.
And teens are just getting pressured from everywhere these
Everywhere.
days. School, online.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and it's very different. Like back then we didn't have the constant social media following us everywhere. Yeah, we had MySpace and whatever, but it was tied to the computer at home.
Yeah.
Now it's in your pocket everywhere. It's constantly with you. You can't really like disconnect as easily.
Exactly.
So then that has to do something.
Yeah, of course. And it's also just like comparisons, right? Because of social media, there's a lot more comparisons going on.
100%.
So before, like when it was like me and you, right?
Yeah.
When we were both 15, like I mean, I didn't know you when I was 15, but I'm saying like, for example, if we knew each other when we were 15, I would only have you to compare myself with, you know, like your closest group of girlfriends.
Like in real life.
Yeah. And the same with guys and stuff like that.
Yep.
And families between families, right?
Yep.
So it was a little bit less stressful. Right now, teen girls are comparing themselves to these celebrities. And in social media, also, their world is a little bit fake, right? Oh. Because they try to picture this like perfect life. So there's a lot of young kids that really just don't have that mindset to say, this is probably not real.
Exactly.
So they think it is, though. So just like the other day, like I saw this girl for acne, right? For acne. And she was like telling me, she's like, I know there was like this product from Sephora that I really needed, right? And then I was like, what product from Sephora could you possibly need so much for your acne? Like, you need different things for your acne, right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, no. And it was like this glow recipe, like the glow recipe.
Okay. I know which one you're talking
The
about.
drops, the dew drops or whatever.
Yeah. Which are probably
And
not.
it's nice.
Yeah, but
It's nice. But again, she is comparing
Yeah.
to another person that has that and probably says this changed my skin and all these things. So now because she cannot afford it, it leads her into this thing of like, damn, I wish I had that. And it, you know what I mean? It's just like the start of something, right? It's this like negative thinking and this like constant comparing yourself to other people and then feeling bad because you do not have that. And like, it's just, it's a really rough world. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this all stems from the most simplest things, right?
100%.
But anyways, anxiety disorders are the most common of the mental disorders, followed by depression, PTSD, and then bipolar disorder. And 1 in 20 adults lives with a serious mental illness like schizophrenia, severe depression, and bipolar 1 disorder.
So 20 people that at least one of them. So that's pretty common.
Yes.
We all know at least 20 people.
Yeah, I know myself. Like, I've gone through like anxiety. Anyway, pretty bad, you know?
I know during medical school, that was
It
hard.
was terrible for me. It was terrible for me. And I remember I lost so much weight.
I remember. I will never forget that.
Yeah, from that. And I remember people from the outside were like, you look so good, because I had lost that weight.
Yeah, but people that didn't know you.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But in the inside,
Yeah.
like internally, every time someone would say that, I was like, if only you knew like how shitty I feel.
Because I remember seeing you and I said the opposite. I'm like,
Yeah.
are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah.
Because it was, the thing is like, yeah, you could lose weight. Great. And I'm sure that you're going to like, you could do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I saw it happen so fast.
Yeah.
Like the weight.
I literally went like from just like stopped eating. I stopped eating because I was nauseous every moment of the day because of my anxiety.
That the alarming part for me was how fast you lost all that weight. And that's when I'm like, that's not normal, obviously, for anyone. For anyone, regardless. You know, losing that amount of weight in like months.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, what the fuck is happening? You know, and then it's the anxiety and everything that came along with med school and your journey there. It was hard.
It was so bad. Like, I remember going to like these talks that we would have that like ran rounds where they would provide meals. I would try so hard to take a bite out of food, and I felt disgusting. I felt disgusting, and not because of my body or whatever, just my anxiety. I felt disgusting. I could not even look at food. I couldn't even look at food.
Damn it. Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to get out of it. But that's because I like flat out, I came out and I like told my parents. I was like, no, I feel terrible. Yeah. You know, like I have a lot of anxiety, and through a lot of help of like my friends and my family and stuff like that, like I was able to really, and like I was really able to turn it around. And even so often, like I still have moments where I'm like, I feel a little bit more anxious today.
Yeah, but it's normal. You work in a high stress job too.
Yeah.
It's very demanding.
But I can tell you, I think one of the main things that really helped me was like actually talking to people about it. So, and I think that's like why it's so important to really sometimes dedicate our episodes to these like months of awareness and these days of awareness.
You're not alone.
And all these things, because maybe if I would have heard someone talking about it, maybe I wouldn't have waited until I was at that point to say something.
Right. Because it is very true that sense of knowing that you're not alone in something really helps.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps you at least open up about it, talk about it.
No, what's crazy is that at the end, my like towards the end of med school, right?
Yeah.
I was talking to some of my classmates. They weren't like close to me, but I was talking to my classmates, and somehow we got into a conversation. And I realized that they had the same thing.
You see what I mean?
The same thing. And I was like, I would have never thought that you...
Yeah.
But they would say the same thing about me. They're like, I would have never thought that you had that either. So it's so important.
It's easy to mask.
Exactly. You are not alone. You have like a massive community surrounding you. More than you know. Exactly.
Yeah.
So globally, depression is the leading cause of disability. So take that into account, like disability. Okay.
Yeah.
The leading cause of that is depression, not something else that physically debilitates you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or that disables you, mentally disables you, which is crazy.
And anybody that's gone through depression knows that that's real.
It is real. It is very debilitating.
It's debilitating, and it's a debilitation of like that's hard to explain.
And it's very hard to come back from.
Oh yeah, to dig yourself out of that hole.
That's work.
It's hard. It's hard.
That's work. And it's not like I said before, it's not something physical, right? So it's something, it's so crazy when you think about that, how
nuts.
something mental is maybe even harder than something physical. It's just crazy.
It's crazy. It really is hard to wrap your head around it, you know?
So if you've ever felt like you were the only one whose brain is pretty much going against you every single day, you're not, okay? You're not alone. And mental illness is not an outlier, okay? It's a majority, actually. It's a majority experience at some point in your life, and just people just don't talk about it enough until now. Things are changing.
Yes.
Okay.
Thankfully.
It's not my uterus, okay?
Wondering about.
It's life.
Yeah.
It's life and the way that it affects my neurotransmitters.
God, yeah, tell me about it. You imagine if you tell that to Hippocrates, like there's a thing called neurotransmitters.
He's gonna hold my hand and be like, "It's your uterus." Yeah, exactly.
Let on the bloodletting.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so mental health versus mental illness, right? So let's clear this up. So mental health is something everyone has, okay? So just like physical health, it's a spectrum.
I like that. I like that you use that comparison. That's very good.
Yeah, because some people like mix them up for some reason, you know? So just like physical health, it's a spectrum. Some days you're thriving, and then other days you're just trying to hold it together. And at least with me, it's caffeine and sarcasm. Caffeine. I know, guys. I know I keep on saying it, caffeine. I'm trying to be better about it, but anyway, here we are. Mental health is something everyone has, just like physical health. Mental illness, on the other hand, refers to conditions that disrupt your thoughts, emotions, behaviors, or functioning to the point where they interfere with your daily life. You don't have to have a diagnosis to be struggling. You also don't have to wait until everything is falling apart for you to take your mental health seriously either.
Yeah, don't do what I did.
We all learn. We all
truly to the point where I just did not eat.
Yeah, but you gave yourself the chance. You didn't know. It was the first time of you dealing with those emotions.
The moment that I knew, it was actually kind of funny. Everything is like, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so funny how the moment that I was like, okay, no, something is seriously wrong, that I went to a Walmart. Because that's where I used to do my shopping when I was in med school.
Yeah.
And I went to a Walmart and I had a panic attack in the middle of the Walmart.
I remember you telling me that story.
Yeah, and then I had to walk out. I literally had to walk out because I felt like I was gonna die.
Yeah.
And then I was having almost like symptoms of what we call like agoraphobia. Like I didn't want to leave in public places because public places would trigger my panic attacks.
Hi, girl. You also left home.
Oh, well, yeah. There was a lot of stuff. There was reasons why
so many
this probably led to that. Yeah.
So many contributing
factors. But that was the
point.
You. That was the point where I like called. I remember calling my mom and I'm like, no, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And even my mom was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna book a trip to go see you.
Dude, yeah, but you had so many things going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Just med school alone. Alone is a trip.
I was it was after I had already been there. So like that like new feeling of like moving to a place was already gone. Like I was actually feeling homesick. I really only saw my family and my friends maybe once or twice a year.
Wow. Yeah. Which is not normal at all.
But I only saw it. If you really think about it, I only came home for maybe the summer
holidays,
or a holiday. And I couldn't go Thanksgiving and Christmas because that was like so back to back.
Yep.
So I really only saw my friends and family like once or twice. I only saw my parents once or twice a year, which is insane. You know, 365 days, maybe a total of like 12 to 14 days that I would see them.
I know that that's like normal for some people, but for at least us, that's not
normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, then taking studying, the amount of studying, the volume of studying, the pressure, the competition, relationships that people have, and then it's like, what's your next thing? What's the next competition? Are you going to get there? Are you going to make it? Oh, but you need to study because that's going to be on your boards. And if you don't get a good score on your boards, then you can't get into the residency that you want to get. And then it's just like.
And back then you guys had the scoring.
We had the scoring too. It wasn't a pass fail. Yeah. So
it's just a lot. Honestly, it was a lot. It makes all the sense in the world for you to not even have noticed it either, because you probably didn't have like so much on your plate ever until then, and it all just like,
yeah.
Oh boy.
So mental health has a lot of layers, as you can imagine. Let's talk about the emotional well-being. So your ability to manage your emotions. Like if you're frustrated, how did you manage that? If you're sad, fear, excited, without becoming overwhelmed or totally just like closing off, numb, right? So you also have your psychological well-being, okay? So your ability to think clearly, solve a problem, make a decision, basically whether your brain feels like a helpful advisor or a chaotic person next to you, like a chaotic roommate. You should also have your social well-being. So your ability to build and maintain relationships, set boundaries.
Very huge.
Connect with others without losing yourself in the process. Connecting with people that build you up, not bring you down.
Yes.
So when all three areas are working together, life tends to feel more manageable, even when it's stressful. So when they're out of sync, it can feel like the smallest thing is going to tip you over.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I've definitely felt that
There was
before.
this like TikToker that I follow, and she said something. She's like, oh, I've been off social media for a little bit, which I know that people commonly take social media breaks. And then she's like, but I did like a cleaning of people that I follow and people that follow me.
Right.
And she just deleted. She's like, if you did not bring me positivity,
Yep.
if you did nothing, right? If you did nothing for me, I wiped you off.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that's crazy, because I feel that in social media, everyone is all about the numbers, how many followers, like how many things. And it was very refreshing to hear someone as popular as her just say, I didn't really care about the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to surround myself with people that are going to build me up.
Yep. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world, because you don't really know how much like a simple like scrolling session affects you.
Yeah.
By just like seeing something that like.
Well, Julie knows I don't check our social media.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I like interacting with people,
right?
So there's sometimes that I'll go on and like I'll answer things and things like that.
Yeah.
But that constant, Jules does it.
Yes. Or social media.
But Jules is also a different personality. I think there's people
yeah.
that can take it and there's people that can't take it.
Yeah, no.
And I know myself, I'm like a fiery person. So
I'm like, I take it like it was a sport. Like if there's a troll, like
exactly. Jules is great with the trolls.
Yeah.
I am not. Like
like the best example.
Why am I so emotional to things,
Oh no. For me it's like
I'm the first one like, Jules, did you see what they wrote to us? And she's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I really don't. And because the thing is, like, the best example was all these trolls, anti-vaxxing trolls.
Oh, nice. I'm so happy I didn't read that.
I had a field day with that. It was a sport that day. And I was just like, there was a moment there that it was
Julie's like strong, like mentally strong. Like I'm mentally good too. I'm like stable, but it's just difference in emotions.
It's really different because I don't think I'm that strong. It's just for me, it's comical to me. I don't take them serious because I'm just like, listen, this is a perfect example. I let this person go off. And then there were actually like some really nice like followers that we have that they were like chiming in and being like, well, where did you get that information? Or where this person first started their thread under whatever it was, saying, well, you can't trust all your sources. How could you trust this source or whatever when it came to some sort of vaccine, whatever. So then somebody retorted going against the anti-vaxxer, right? And it led on to like a thread that at the end, that person that was against the anti-vaxxer saying, well, where did you get that information from? And she's like, tell me where you want me to send all of my data from. And then I came in at that moment and I'm like, didn't you start this conversation saying you shouldn't believe all the data that you're reading out there?
Yeah.
Didn't answer back.
Yeah, of course.
I'm like, you just went against your very first
comment
thing that you attacked me on. You literally just said exactly what you were attacking me for.
Yeah.
So that is where I find the sport in it. And
I'd still love to see those resources. You know what I think it is? It's just that like I'm like a very much of the mentality, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm very much of the mentality that you can't fight stupid.
that's why I just let it go. And I let it go. And I'm like, ha,
Yeah.
there it is. I'm like, there it is. Didn't even answer back.
No.
And I find it fun for me because I then get her like, I won. I don't know. I just make it a sport. I make it a sport thing. I don't take it personally or anything. I'm like, this, and how I don't take it personally is because I'm like, I don't know this person. This person absolutely does not know me.
Yeah.
So this is so unfounded.
Yeah.
This is so like, it only exists here.
Yeah.
And it only exists if I open it and I give it the attention I want to give
exactly,
it, you know?
Exactly.
So that's how, to me, it's fake. Like in my mind, I think that's why like it doesn't affect me, because to me, as soon as I open that, I'm like, this is all existing in this virtual thing here.
Yeah.
It's not real.
Yeah.
If this person were to see me on the street, they probably wouldn't even confront me.
Yeah.
So this isn't real. This is stupid. Like that's how I engage with it. That's how I see comments. That's how I confront these like negative things on social media, by literally believing that it's not real. Because to me, it really isn't.
Oh my God.
Unless you're in the
like
street,
like mentality.
unless you're in the street in my face telling me this in person, I truly believe that you're not real. And the majority of these trolls don't even have a freaking profile picture.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
best ones are the ones that have no profile picture. You click on their profile and it's like nothing. I'm like, what are you?
Yeah.
You know, whatever. So that's how I see it mentally, but whatever.
We digress.
Why does this all matter? Why does
does it all
mental health matter? Anyway, so good mental health does not just help you feel better. It improves every aspect of your life. It's linked to better work performance, stronger immune response, lower risk of chronic illnesses, increased life satisfaction, and yes, even longer lifespan. Absolutely.
It does.
Because if you're stressed out and you're always on this adrenaline push, of course you're gonna like
Cortisol levels are always up.
Yep.
That's also going to affect other
Inflammation.
things. Exactly. So it does have a link.
Well, absolutely. And then on the flip side, poor mental health can contribute to heart disease, diabetes, substance misuse, chronic pain, sleep disorders, and even a higher risk of early death. So in other words, your mind and your body are on the same team.
Yep.
They really are. And a good example of that is the mind-gut connection.
Yes.
Check out that episode.
That episode.
If one's struggling, then the other one's going to pay the price. It's all connected, really.
All right. So mental health is real health. And this is like finally something that's like finally being drilled into people's brains. So we often separate mental and physical health like they're two unrelated things, but really in reality, they're deeply connected. Mental health affects how you experience everything, from pain to motivation to how well your body recovers from illness to sleep. Yet even today, people are more likely to seek help for a sprained ankle than for crippling anxiety or depression. There's still stigma, there's still shame and outdated floating ideas, especially in certain cultures and in certain communities.
But cultures like that.
Yes.
Big time.
But mental health isn't a weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's not something that you just kind of snap out of. It's a reflection of what your biology, what your environment, and your experiences are. And it can be supported and improved with the right tools. And everyone has like different experiences, like culture-wise, community-wise.
Big time.
So what's big for you is probably very small for me. Or what's something that tipped me over, you might be like, why would that happen? Like it wasn't even a big deal.
Yep. Even like where you live.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. Like people that live in smaller towns, other things affect them versus like us that we live in a huge town.
Yeah.
It's different problems, different things affect us.
Yeah.
You know? So,
All right. So causes of mental health illness. Why your brain sometimes hits the panic button instead, for like no reason, right?
Yeah. Happens
So-
quite often.
Let's put a scenario. You're doing everything right? Eating salads, you're getting sleep, you're journaling, you're doing everything healthy, right? And then your brain still feels like it's been run over by a truck full of existential dread, right? So let's talk about why that happens. Mental illness is a result of multiple overlapping factors, right? So biological, psychological, environmental, social. Basically, it's not just one thing. It's most likely a combination of all those things, right? So it's just a combination of what life throws at you. Now, let's talk about the biological factors, okay? We're going to talk about like, like history and stuff like that, right? Mental illness often has a biological component to it, meaning it can run in families, being linked to your brain chemistry or even both, okay? So a genetic predisposition. If someone in your family, okay, in your family tree has depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, then there's a higher chance that you will also suffer from something. Maybe not specifically that thing, but maybe another branch of a mental health disorder, okay? Neurotransmitter imbalances. Your brain uses chemical messengers like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine to regulate these moods, right? Your sleep, your focus. And then when these are a little bit unbalanced, right, then your mental state can kind of take a hit, okay? Structural differences in the brain. So imaging studies have shown that people with certain conditions like PTSD or depression sometimes have changes in their brain volumes or in their activity in certain areas, right?
So interesting.
And that's extremely interesting. And now we have like this technology that we can do these things, right?
Right.
You also have hormonal changes, which I'm so happy that people are like finally kind of including the hormonal changes.
It's so real. It's so real.
It is. And sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes I feel like people blame the hormonal changes a little too much.
Yeah, like
but it should be taken into account, right?
Exactly.
So things like thyroid disorders, perimenstrual symptoms, postpartum hormone shifts.
I'm saying.
And I know that because when I was postpartum, I was crying about everything.
Everything.
Okay.
Everything, yeah.
Menopause.
I did the same.
Menopause.
Exactly.
Is a big one.
Huge,
Okay.
huge.
And it all impacts your mental health, right? So hormones are really powerful. Never underestimate what an imbalance of estrogen and cortisol can do to your mood.
Absolutely.
Right? You also have environmental triggers as well, kind of like the external stressors, right? Childhood trauma, abuse, neglect, growing up in an unstable environment can literally change how your brain develops and processes emotions. And like Jules and I have talked about before, the ACEs, you can actually, if you have all these things at a younger age, you are more likely to have metabolic disorders in the future, physical alterations, right, in your future.
Amazing. Yeah.
Chronic stress, right? Living paycheck to paycheck, toxic work environments, toxic relationships, caregiving stress, right? If you're just trying to survive capitalism, right, can wreak havoc on your mind and body. Like a perfect example that I always use, my mom taking care of my grandmother with Alzheimer's. That was a huge stressor for her that we do feel it triggered her to go into this like autoimmune psoriasis, right?
Absolutely.
It's awful. Grief and loss, another really big one. Losing a loved one, getting a divorce, or even losing a job can be super emotional and really distressful. So those normal stress responses, but basically evolving into clinical disorders, and if they're prolonged, can be really overwhelming.
Yeah.
You also have violence and war. So exposures to violence, whether it's domestic, community, global, can also cause lasting psychological damage. PTSD is not just for veterans, it can affect anyone. And also, I can kind of piggyback off of this. There's multiple studies, obviously I'm a pediatrician, I have to say this. There are multiple studies showing that if you have an aggressive child, you need to look at the video games that they're playing, at the movies that they're watching, and all these things, because there is a link to higher behavioral changes, like negative behavioral changes with kids that are exposed to violence at a very young age, even when it's just through gaming systems and things like that. Last one, social isolation. We need connections. So loneliness is not just sad, but it's also stressful. Studies have shown that it does increase your risk of depression, anxiety, and even early death. I mean, you just look at someone that has been in solitary confinement. They are not normal.
Nope.
They're not normal.
No, it's really, it negatively impacts them in many ways.
So now we're going to move on to psychological. We talked about like family, then external stressors, environmental. Now we're going to talk about psychological and cognitive patterns. So certain thought patterns or personality traits can increase your vulnerability to mental health issues. Julie and I were literally just talking about this. The difference
100%.
between her responding right to comments to me. I take things personal and she takes it as a game.
Yeah. I gamify it.
We're a great example of this, right? So this could be things like low self-esteem, perfectionism, negative thinking cycles, rigid or all or nothing thinking. Check out our episode on, oh my God, sorry. I'm like blanking out on the name right now.
What was it? Describe it to me.
Wait. I literally have it on the tip. I was just talking to Mike about this yesterday. Oh my God, hold on. Why am I like blocking my brain right now?
Let me help
Imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome. That is also something.
100%.
Yes.
100%.
I was talking to Mike about it. I'm like, I have the world's largest imposter syndrome.
I do too, dude. A lot of us do. Yeah.
Yes, a lot of people do. Yeah. So these aren't just character flaws. They're often learned coping mechanisms, right? Yep. But when unchecked, they can create mental environments where anxiety and depression or burnout thrive. Why do you think some people wake up and they have to look at themselves in the mirror and have a mantra? Okay,
100%.
Because they need to remind themselves and check themselves. Okay, sometimes when I'm having like an anxiety attack, I need to be like, Eva, calm down, all right, and focus. You can do it. Yeah. Or like Nora in the water, she starts freaking out, flapping, and then I'm like, Nora, breathe.
Yeah.
And when you breathe, you can figure out what to do.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
All right. Next up. Substance use.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
Very common when it comes to mental health.
So common, and I'm happy we're talking about it because maybe this could be like a realization for someone,
100%.
right? So using substances to deal with stress or emotions can actually trigger or worsen mental illness.
Yep.
Alcohol, huge one. Okay. It's a depressant. Like the alcohol itself is a depressant.
As a chemical,
right?
entering your brain, that's what it does.
Yes. So that glass of wine can actually worsen your mood, worsen your sleep too. Check out our episodes on our sleep cycles, okay? Stimulants and any kind of stimulant, cocaine, meth, even like stimulants that people take like on a day-to-day for like ADHD and things like that.
Exactly.
Can lead to paranoia or psychosis. Marijuana is a big one too. It can worsen symptoms of anxiety or even trigger certain psychotic episodes in people that are predisposed to these conditions, like schizophrenia. That's just an example. Now, let's not forget caffeine. We're guilty. The beloved nectar of productivity. I love that.
Lord knows I cannot function without it.
Yeah, I know.
I am an addict for caffeine.
Yeah, but in excess, it could feel like your heart is pounding out of your chest.
Like you had said that time about, we did an episode on caffeine. Go check it out. On that skeleton that's like red eyeballs.
Exactly. Red eyeballs just going at like 600,000 miles per hour.
Exactly.
But still feeling dead inside.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
But yes, Jules and I are extremely guilty of this.
Yeah. Cheers.
And we've only had one, but I did have coffee espresso. And I did have a protein shake with also some caffeine.
Oh, so you're actually up
and like, past the recommended amount for sure today.
You're past me today. I'm typically past you, the caffeine most days.
Julie is usually like in 2.
Yeah, I'm itching to get the second one now.
Check yourself. All right, big picture, guys. Okay. Yeah. Most mental illnesses, it's a mix of everything. It's not like just like one category or the other. Again, it's like a blended effect. So you might have genetics. You might have some unresolved generational trauma. You must have a stressful environment. You might have some poor sleep. Jules knows it. Okay.
Big time.
And all of a sudden, all of those things together is like you're spiraling, right? Like you have no idea how you ended up where you are.
I literally felt like this on Friday because this whole past 2 weeks, because we got back from vacation or whatever, and that just like disrupted everything.
Yeah.
I had been chronically sleep deprived.
Oof.
So Friday, like day 4 of going to sleep at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning and waking up at 6:30 with MR to take him to school, 4 days of doing that, by Friday, it was 8 p.m. and I'm like, I don't know what is up and down right now. I feel like dog crap right now. I feel horrible. I actually went to sleep early because my body was just like, you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. Because I wanted to get these notes done. I wanted all these things. And I'm like,
yeah,
no,
you have a point. You have like a boundary.
You're done. Dude, the next day, I felt so much freaking better.
Yeah.
I'm like, just what sleep does.
Yeah.
Only like just getting an adequate amount of sleep. I didn't even like sleep in, but like just an adequate amount of sleep versus being completely sleep deprived the last 4 days.
Yeah.
Made a world of a difference in everything.
It's funny you say that because I tell like my moms that come in for their newborn visits.
Oh yeah,
I'm always asking them, are you okay? Who's helping you and all these things? And then I tell them, like, go out for walks. Like, don't worry, the baby's gonna be fine in the little bassinet stroller. Okay. And then, but I always tell them, like, whenever you feel like you're stressed out, take a 20-minute nap before you decide anything.
Yeah.
It makes a world of a difference.
It really freaking does. It really does. So one more thing. It's not your fault. Yeah. Very important, because us that we suffer from imposter syndrome, I feel like this.
And I literally feel guilty for everything.
Yeah, exactly. Like I go through that thought a lot. Like anything, like a meteor hits tomorrow, it's my fault.
Yeah,
Some
for
way,
sure.
somehow, my fault. I caused it. I don't know. Whatever. But it's like that. So just remember, you did not cause your depression, okay? Because you didn't meditate hard enough. Your anxiety isn't a failure of willpower. I need to remind myself that all the time. And mental illness is not weakness. It's not a moral weakness. It's not any type of weakness. It's health.
Yeah.
Okay. Understanding the why behind it doesn't make it easier to live with, but it does make it easier to treat. Okay. So that's why therapy and all that is very, very, very important. And just talk to somebody about it without that feeling of shame. You come to understand that it's just health. There shouldn't be like this stigmatized like shame behind it, you know?
So let's jump a little bit into like symptoms, because sometimes things don't really look like they should look or what you would expect it to look like.
There goes Bronny barking. Sorry for that. Yeah, and symptoms are a good way of like, they're kind of like these little highlighters for you to realize like, oh, maybe I should pay attention to that.
Yeah, pay attention to that. Or maybe we're like reading this and someone's like, oh.
Exactly. It's like an aha moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So persistent sadness or hopelessness, like an example, if you enjoyed doing something before and now you're like just not into it, it's not giving you what it used to give you.
Yeah.
Or hopelessness. I had a patient the other day, and one thing that like really I was like he has like a hopelessness type of thing is that he felt like no one was going to drag him out of his depression.
Okay.
He felt like hopeless. He was like, no one's going to fix me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a swimmer. And he is like, well, I told my coach I wasn't going to do any more meets or whatever because I'm just not going to perform well. So he was like kind of just very hopeless about everything.
Like defeating. Like,
yeah, defeated. Yeah. So fatigue, low energy, okay, can be that. Changes in sleep, and that could be no sleep, that could be too much sleep.
Yeah.
Insomnia, oversleeping are really classic things, right? Appetite change, I had that for sure. And it's kind of weird because like I actually stress eat a lot.
Yeah.
But when I obviously had that like real anxiety, I like switched completely.
Because that happens to me too. Because if it's like what I call moderate anxiety, which is probably not moderate, but in my life it's moderate. Like, yes, I will overeat. But if it goes past that threshold,
you're, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's bad.
Exactly.
I'm not saying, so it's bad.
Yeah.
Difficulty concentrating. And this is something very common. And this is, everyone tells me, like, I can't remember things. And you're kind of like, well, then they're worried about a memory issue. But when you think about it, or when you start talking to them, it's that they have their brain is running so much that you can't even focus on what you're doing.
That happened to me with the first year of MR's life. Year one.
MR's reflux really did you in.
That whole first year of his life is a blur to me. And it's unfortunate, but it is. It's a blur. And I know, and I attribute it to all that anxiety that I had with his feeding, and for sure, postpartum depression for sure. was in there. So it's exactly that.
Yeah.
Like your memory, concentrating.
Someone tells you something and they're like, I told you this, and you were like, did you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
100%.
Excessive worry and fear.
Literally the first year of
I know.
so worried.
It was really bad. It was
So
really
bad. It was so bad. For
Just
example.
like constantly feeling like what you're doing is wrong. Okay. And then that can lead to like irritability and anger.
Oh yeah.
Things that just like, you lose your patience real quick, snapping over the smallest things.
Guilty of all of that throughout that.
Yeah. And feelings of guilt.
Yep.
Worthlessness, emptiness. How many times have I heard when someone says, I'm just not good enough for my family?
Yep.
Now, obviously, the worst of these can also lead to thoughts of death or self-harm or suicide. And these are really serious thoughts. And sometimes they're a little bit more passive than active. Sometimes I have people that say, that they don't have like an intent, right? They don't have like a plan to do something to themselves. Or they're kind of just saying, well, what would the world be without me, right? Yeah. I feel like it would be a better place if I wasn't here. And some things that people don't talk about, which I interestingly like would read about after, is like the last thing is like this, like all of a sudden happiness because you just know like everything is going to be over.
Huge red flag.
Yeah.
Huge red flag. If you
and
see
a lot
somebody,
of people, if you see someone that had depression before
and you saw them like in the dumps, very sad, all those things, and then
and
all
from
of a
one
sudden
day
you
to the
see
next,
them, like it's a 180 out. That's a massive red flag,
which people don't talk about. So
no, there's actually like a term that I recently like discovered somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but it was very interesting to me about passive suicide. Have you heard of it? So it's like people that pretty much they're not actively like with a plan to commit it or actively like, oh, I'm gonna do it this way or whatever. They're just like, you know what? If it happens, it happens. Like crossing a street without looking both ways.
Yeah.
Not wearing a seatbelt. Things like that, and then it's labeled as passive.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I had never heard of that term, but that is like, yeah, it's all these things,
Yeah. One thing that I learned when I was a medical student was suicide by police. It's like people purposely getting into trouble and throwing themselves like at police so that they can get like shot down or something.
Exactly.
Which is awful. Like
awful.
Right?
Awful.
I hope we don't get like triggered, right?
I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll see what I can do with the words and whatnot. But yeah, it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
Because it does exist out there. And it's things that you maybe not for you, but for somebody that you know.
Yeah.
Maybe you've seen something.
These are real things. Like these are real conversations.
Exactly. And maybe you help somebody out because you're like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar to me because of so or whatever. Yeah. And anyway.
Yeah.
So disorders often overlap. Okay, so mental illness doesn't always fit neatly into one category. You could have anxiety and depression, which is a great combo that I've had.
Yeah.
Or ADHD and trauma, or bipolar disorder and PTSD. The lines are blurry, which is why diagnosis is best left to the professionals, not your friend who watched TikTok.
Not yourself.
And not
You're
yourself.
You're probably not in a position to self-diagnose.
No, or going to WebMD or any type of social. And
you
be
can
like,
self-recognize.
100%.
You can recognize your symptoms.
But don't like just flat out be like, this is it.
Just go seek help.
Exactly. As she was saying, symptoms can be sneaky. Okay. Sometimes they can show up as chronic physical pain with no medical clear cause. Overproductivity or professionalism. That's a big one. Isolation or withdrawal. Another big one. That's just masked as being introverted.
Yeah.
And then, like we've mentioned, using substances to cope, like alcohol, drugs, eating food, Mental illness can look high functioning, productive, because it's true. Like there are some people that are high depression.
You would never know.
I've had it. I had high functioning depression and I was doing everything I needed to do and it's still depressed. It doesn't mean that a depressed person is just like stuck in bed, can't move. There is that version too.
Yeah.
But it could exist in both ways.
Exactly.
So that's why it's important. Just don't judge a book by its cover. Just because somebody looks like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how they feel. Yeah. And when to seek help, if your symptoms last more than 2 weeks, if it affects your work, your relationships, or your daily functioning, or if they feel just unmanageable and distressing, definitely it's time to talk to someone. a therapist, a counselor, psychiatrist, or even just your doctor if you feel comfortable with your doctor.
Yeah.
And no, you don't have to hit rock bottom to deserve help. That's a huge one. Some people like feel guilty, like, well, I don't really have something huge to be going seeking help for. That's not the right way
That's
of
a very
thinking of
common
it.
misconception too.
Exactly. So prevention counts too. You know?
So stigma, we're going to talk a little bit about stigma, which is
It's just like it's invisible.
It's a block. Yeah.
It is because a lot of
it's a
people
block
don't
that
talk
people
about
don't
it, but
see.
it's there.
Yeah.
It's the elephant in the room.
Yes, exactly. Even with all like the awareness, hashtag, motivational things, Jules and I like talking about it, there's still going to be some sort of stigma that people hold on to and will restrict someone from getting help. Okay. So stigma is what keeps people from seeking help. Okay. And that could be judgment, that could be stereotypes, that could be misconceptions. And maybe sometimes it's the person themselves, like they don't want to admit something, right? You don't want to fall into a stigma, right? Yeah. You can have public stigma, so society is judging you. People with mental illnesses are, like
being labeled
as dangerous, lazy, dramatic, weak. Weak is a huge one. Incapable. And then, you have self-stigma too, when people internalize their shame and believe that they're broken and they're not enough because of their diagnosis. It just prevents them from reaching out to someone, even though they're admitting that something is wrong. Structural stigma, the healthcare system, right? Schools, workplaces don't support mental health care, like offering insurances. And one of the things that I wanted to say here that I just thought about, another thing is, I can't tell you the amount of times I have referred someone somewhere and they come back and they're like, oh, but doctor, where you referred, there was crazy people there. And I don't, like, my child is not crazy. And I'm like, that is a problem. And no one is saying that. There are people that have problems, right? That are different from yours. It's the same way as you enter a hospital. You might have a fever, but the person next to you has a diabetic coma or something. Like, you cannot compare those things. So what do? They don't want to go back to that place because they feel that stigma, that shame, that you're receiving help in the same place that another person that's worse is receiving help.
They're not seeing it as like as a physical health issue. They're seeing it more as like an abstract, I can manage this in my brain.
Exactly.
And when in fact we keep seeing that it's a health thing.
Exactly.
Just as important as like a broken leg or high cholesterol or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm talking about some common myths that need to die when it comes to mental health, because I mean, it is riddled with myths, unfortunately. I literally just said this. It's all in your head.
It's in your head.
That's where the brain is. Yes.
Yeah.
I know. But that's where the problem is also. People with mental health are violent. No. People with mental illnesses are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators, actually. Look at, unfortunately, DV. It's, you just need to be more positive. I get so triggered by this one. It is like, it really,
and I really feel like when people say it, they mean the best, but it is really frustrating for someone to hear you need to be more positive when you can. You're not there. You're not mentally there to do that task.
Especially like somebody that is depressed. Somebody that is actively depressed, for whatever reason, especially somebody that's just like actively going through depression. It's like, can you be a little bit compassionate?
Just a little bit.
A little compassionate.
And there's a moment in time for everything.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you know that this person is like real down, maybe it's not the best thing to say. You have to look at the positives, right? It's like right now, I can't, I literally can't. So we need to do something else to get me to a place where then I can do that.
Exactly. This one. Therapy is for weak people. Absolutely.
I think everyone needs a therapist.
Exactly. Regardless of what's happening, you would probably benefit from therapy, honestly. So it's just, anyway. So
my mom is my therapist.
Hey, it's talking to someone, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
It's talking to someone. That's fine.
All right. So how to break the stigma. Okay. So just be respectful. Just when you're addressing it as well, like a person with bipolar disorder, it's not just a bipolar. Like you're not like calling them that. Okay. Speak openly about your own mental health if you're comfortable doing it. Call out harmful jokes and stereotypes, right? So if something is really messed up, like you can call it out, right? Educate yourself from the right sources. Share facts. Don't instill fear in people. Just a reminder, asking for help is really more of a power move more than anything. And taking care of your mental health isn't a weakness. It's really you're kind of performing maintenance on yourself. And it's kind of just like brushing your teeth every day, changing your car oil. There's nothing shameful and in needing support. So real shame is pretending that you don't need it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the brain-body connection where your mental health physically hits different. You know, here's something we just don't talk enough about. Mental illness doesn't stay politely like contained into your head. It trickles down into your body and how you perform and how your whole body performs. It's not just emotional distress, it's a full body experience. That's because your body and your brain are in constant communication, like a chaotic married couple that never texts us back but still knows exactly how to push each other's buttons. Mental and physical health are inseparable. So when your brain's not doing well, your body starts showing signs of it too. Kind of like how a car engine light starts to turn on if your oil is low and all that. It's like very simple. It's just like it's giving you those symptoms and it's like those signs, you know, to like, hey, you got to check yourself. Like, for instance, let's look at it in like a scientific way, right? So heart disease and high blood pressure, chronic stress, anxiety, and depression activate your fight and flight system, which is great if you're running from a bear, okay? But not great if you're just trying to answer some emails or a phone call.
Yeah, and not having it every single day, too.
Exactly. So constant activation of this leads to elevated cortisol levels, increased heart rate, high blood pressure, higher risk of heart attacks and stroke. So yes, that panic attack can literally break you.
Yeah.
Weakened immune system, so prolonged mental stress suppresses immune function that makes more colds and infections, slower recovery from any sort of illness, and higher inflammation markers, which are linked to autoimmune diseases, diabetes, and even cancers. And then sleep disorders, anxiety, depression are best friends with insomnia. Trust me.
They like her.
Yes. When the brain is constantly in survival mode, it doesn't exactly shut off just because it's bedtime.
Yeah.
The poor sleep then feeds right back into poor mental health, a vicious cycle of tossing and turning and doom scrolling at 2 a.m., as I do most nights.
Have you seen Inside Out?
Yes.
Inside Out 2?
I haven't
with
seen
anxiety.
2.
Oh my God.
I need to see it.
She's so funny. Okay.
Anyway, so weight changes. Mental illness can mess with your appetite, hormones, and motivation to move. So it's common to gain weight from emotional eating or inactivity, or lose weight from lack of appetite, nausea, or over exercising. And that's another one too. Like some people turn into exercise and then like they over exercise because that's like their source of just like getting like dealing with that anxiety. I've seen that too. Either way, it throws your metabolism out of whack, increasing your risk for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Then you have chronic pain and fatigue. So conditions like depression and anxiety often come with headaches, muscle tension, stomach issues, such as like IBS as an example, joint and back pain. This isn't in your head pain, it's real physical discomfort linked to your nervous, how it processes stress and emotion. And yes, it can affect your lifespan. Studies have shown that people with serious mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, or severe depression die on average 10 to 20 years earlier than the general population. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So why? A few reasons is because delayed or avoided medical care, higher rates of smoking, substance abuse, and poor diet, increased risk of suicide, and underdiagnosed and undertreated physical conditions. Like we had just mentioned, all the physical things that could come along with it. And let's be honest, navigating healthcare systems is hard enough when your brain isn't trying to sabotage you. Is it covered by your healthcare? Is it covered by your employer? What time can I even see a therapist if like I have all this work to do? There's so many things along with it. So no, you can't just push through depression like it's a motivational spin class.
Yeah.
You have to take care of your mind and your body. They're literally together.
Yeah. So we talked about what it is, what the symptoms are, what to watch out for, kind of explaining the depths between it, genetics, all these things, and treatments. So let's kind of go into preventing it, okay? So you can't prevent it all, but you can at least try. So genetics, right? If it's in your genes, you can't change your genes, right?
Yeah.
So trauma happens, and sometimes your brain chemistry just decides to do its own thing, and you can have that, right? However, there is evidence-based real-world strategies that can lower your risk, protect your mental health, and also build resilience in order to make maybe in the future it easier for you to manage that. And no, we're not just saying think positively or drink more water. So we're talking about like tools to actually use, and it's backed by science to help you out. Sleep. You need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. When you sleep less, there are some people out there that are like, no, I'm just used to it. You need it.
Yeah.
Again, poor sleep is going to lead to all those things that we already talked about: anxiety, depression, impulsivity, mood swings. And it's, again, you need an adequate amount of good sleep. All right. So next up, move your body. Exercise. All right. Jules and I have constantly been on here, and if there's anything that we preach to everyone out here is exercise and eat healthy.
Oh yeah.
That's like always like the bottom line of
Always,
things, right?
always.
It's not far from what we've been talking about.
Yep.
When you exercise, you boost your mood, you release the endorphins, you're lowering your cortisol. Then you're tired, so you improving your sleep. The next day when you wake up, you're more focused,
100%.
right? Again, exercise is so important. Just 30 minutes of walking, dancing, swimming, anything that you enjoy doing that gets your body moving and your heart rate higher. Your heart is happy. You are happy. Get it done. I feel like I'm like talking to one of my patients. All right. So eat. Okay. We just talked about exercise and nutrition, right?
Yeah.
So eat healthy. Your brain needs nutrients to function. Omega-3s, which are found in things that are most commonly like fish, walnuts, flaxseed, B vitamins, whole grains, leafy greens, magnesium, iron. These are all things like you can find in seeds, beans, even dark chocolate, eh?
Love dark
For our chocolate lovers. And other things that are a little bit less backing to it, but can help too, probably, is going to be probiotics, fiber. Again, check out our our mind-gut connection.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
All these things are going to help our brain out when it comes to it's like a toolbox.
Yep.
Right? And that's one of our tools. Now, building strong social connections, like I just finished telling Julie, my mom is my therapist. Okay.
Yep.
So loneliness is more dangerous than anything. So more dangerous than obesity, than smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
That's an actual statistic from Harvard.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. Humans are wired for community. So have real world conversations, not just like these memes and emojis. Okay. Safe, supportive friendships. Yeah. Group belongings. So join clubs, be a part of a Facebook, go to church. All those things are really important. If you're an introvert, then you can still, you still need people, just maybe not like a room full of them. Okay.
Exactly.
You're a person that likes things at lower doses.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Practice emotional hygiene. So mental wellness is also not just reacting to a situation. You're trying to be proactive about the situation. Yeah. So journaling is huge. Breathing work, meditation, therapy, like we just said, setting boundaries. If you know that something is not good for you, set that boundary. Like you owe it to yourself. Unfollowing that one person. Oh man, we were just talking about this. So like unfollowing that one person that, you know what, every time that you look at their story, it makes you feel some type of way.
Exactly.
Right? So take care of your brain in all these different ways that we just talked about, so that you can have brighter future when it comes to your mental health.
Absolutely. And then like a small little takeaway here for this episode is just like, what can we expect about the future given all of this? So there's a few things that are pretty interesting that are coming about. The first one is psychedelic therapy. So legally using mushrooms.
Yeah.
So after decades of being dismissed as party drugs, psychedelics like psilocybin, ketamine, and MDMA are now being studied and fast-tracked for treatment-resistant conditions like major depression, PTSD, addiction, and end-of-life anxiety. Psilocybin has been shown to reset brain networks that get stuck in depressive ruts.
The psilocybin is incredible.
Super
What's
interesting.
actually being shown in research.
Yep. Super
Like we're talking about people that fail every other therapy.
Yep.
People that even are doing electroshock therapy and it is not working for them. Yes, guys, we still do electroshock therapy.
Yes. It's just, it's not as
crazy as as it was before.
or
okay?
shown in the movies.
Yes, exactly. But these are like psilocybin mushrooms is actually changing people's lives, which is insane.
It's insane.
Okay.
Yeah. And then while MDMA helps like rebooting a glitchy computer sometimes for some people.
And also like, we're not talking about like going to a party and like taking like a random pill, okay? No, or like going
These
to a
are
forest and just like taking a
controlled.
random like mushroom, right? We're talking about like extremely low doses of these things in a controlled setting, in a controlled environment with professionals, things backed by science, not just like going out, just like doing all these things. Because I'm sure there's someone out there being like, well, why do you need to go through all of this when you could just get it on the streets? No, that is that's not what we're saying.
Please
Okay.
don't. These are,
do not misconstrue what we're trying to get out.
these are very specific dosages, very controlled.
Yeah.
No. The FDA approval for psilocybin assisted therapy is expected within the next couple of years. We hope.
Yeah.
Okay, we're hoping for that. Anyway, AI and digital mental health. So apps are getting smarter and sometimes weirder. Okay. Like AI chatbots that deliver cognitive behavioral therapy, like CBT, virtual reality exposure therapy for phobias and PTSD, video game-based treatments for ADHD, smart mood trackers that sync with your wearable devices like your iWatch or whatever. It's a little creepy, yes. It is effective for some people, also yes. So digital care improves access for people who can't get therapy in person or who feel safer behind a screen.
Yeah.
And some people
There
feel
are people
embarrassed.
that text.
Exactly.
And I tell that to my patients too, because I feel like my little ones,
yeah.
right, are just so into texting. And I'm like, well, maybe that's what you need.
We're not sponsored by any of these, but I know that BetterHelp and Talkspace, those are two that you could get like actual human like
You
therapists.
can even text
and
a
it's
suicide hotline.
yeah, and it's just
Yeah, text.
message based if you
And
want.
that's what you prefer?
Fine.
To get your foot in the door?
Fine.
Perfect.
Fine. And then the cool thing about AI version of it though is like some people have shame like talking about their problems to an actual person, feeling like, oh, I'm gonna get judged or whatever. And AI is not gonna judge you.
Yeah.
So that's another level of comfort that maybe could satisfy that type of person. So it's pretty cool if you think about it. Another one is the gut-brain axis. So your microbiome has mental health opinions. Scientists now believe that your gut microbiome, aka the bacteria that's in your digestive tract, has a direct impact on your mood and mental health. Research has shown that a balanced gut can reduce inflammation linked to depression, influence serotonin production, 90% of which happens in your gut, not in your brain, and improve stress response and focus. So yes, your poop bacteria might affect your panic attacks. And then you have precision psychiatry. Gone are the days of throwing antidepressants at the wall and seeing what sticks. That was incredibly frustrating and like too time consuming for some people that just don't have the time for that. Precision medicine is on the rise. That means that it's genetic testing, brain imaging, biomarkers, AI analysis, all of this to tailor what really is the right fit for you and your brain and your body, and not just based on general trial and error or generalized for like a whole big group set of people. So bottom line is that the future is personalized and probably more accessible than it is currently right now.
It's an amazing episode.
Yeah.
I think that was a great overview of something that's super extensive.
Very big. Yeah, very, very big. But
And we hope you enjoyed it. We tried to break it down as much as possible. Jules did a
Absolutely.
great job on this episode.
Thank you. And if there's something that we talked about that you want us to take a deeper dive in, by all means, let me know. Let us know through any form of social or through our email, funnymedicine305@gmail.com. We tend to prioritize like anything that's requested.
Yeah.
And we'll move it up to do it as soon as possible. So if any of these were like, oh, I want to know a little bit more about that, or I want you to explain it to me, we're here for
Let's
that.
do it.
So follow us on all forms of social. We're pretty much everywhere. The Funny Medicine Podcast, except on X, we're Funny Med Podcast. Or like I said, email us, funnymedicine305@gmail.com. And we love hearing from you. Thank you guys for everything. And we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.